had a thought. Just had a thought. So we do these, what they're called is double stops, right? We have those dyads, right? We know triads, and we also got tetrads. Tri is 3, tet is 4. So we have these dyads, and they sound pretty beautiful and all that. Now, here's the deal. Here's what my thought was. So, when we take these triads and my pick just disappeared. Give me a second. Where did this pick go? Alright, check it. We got these triads, right? And what happens is that when we take these triads and then we repeat them and create these inversions, we end up with these arpeggios. And then the same thing's true for the tetrads, the 4-note chords, right? So we have this, there's a major, so this is just major, right? And that is 1, 3, 5. Right? And then this is a major 7. Right? So they got so that's the same arpeggio, but they add in a 7th. So that's a 1, 3, 5, 7. That's a 4-note arpeggio. Now this is my question. We got these dyads. Can we make dyad arpeggios, 2-note arpeggios? Is that a thing? Well, I just did it. Doesn't sound that incredible, but I think it's probably a useful thing to have in the bag of tricks. There's probably a rare situation where that would be applicable. Yeah, man. Dyad arpeggios. I'm just gonna Google that and see if anything interesting shows up.
If you want to dress
Okay. I guess people would do some sweeps with those. But you know what? It doesn't seem like it's not a fundamental. I think we gotta really tailor our practice sessions towards the fundamentals. And why do they call them the fundamentals? Because they're fun, but it makes you mental. It drives you mental. Alright, so let's just do this stupid shit. 5 easy shreds. Actually, we gotta do our spider walks. We'll start with our fundamentals. That's right. I just said it. Here we go. And so this is what we're going to be focusing on. If you can look visually, right? Normally, people when they play guitar and they're not good, they like move their hand like this, at like this diagonal. We're trying to get it so it's like 100% perpendicular with the guitar. And then the reason why we want it 100% perpendicular is because that gives our hand more leeway. And since we have more leeway, we can arch our fingers. And since we can arch our fingers, what's going to happen is that we're going to be using the very tips of our fingers, the fingertips. So then what that is called accuracy. We're working on the accuracy of our fingering hand. Now that is our left hand. What we're going to be doing on our right hand is we're going to be having perfect pick placement, right? You see this right here? And then we're going to rotate our wrist. Rather than going up and down, or even worse, going up and down with our forearm, we're going to be using our wrist and rotating sideways rather than going up and down. It's counterintuitive, but that's how you should be picking. And so this is the most fundamentals of fundamentals. Here we go. We're also going to be playing to a rhythm, and then we're going to be mixing note values. Take these sunglasses off. And so here's something that Burnt said yesterday that stuck with me. When you are practicing a skill, you want to put like 100% of your brain into it, because that's gonna like force those neuron fatty tissues to grow. You can't check your phone every 10 minutes. You can't be thinking about going to TGI Fridays or whatever the fuck. You gotta really be thinking about every aspect of what you're doing. I think my hands are a little greasy. I ate some greasy food. I gotta wash my hands, honestly. Big mistake, big error. Yikes. Chaka, ooga, 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 chaka, ooga, ooga. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. Alright. There we go. I'm about to pop the fuck off. so this is what's going to happen. We're working towards our improvisational session at the end, because that's the most fun thing to do, is to just fuck around on guitar. And so that's how we're going to schedule these from now on. We're going to start with the most boring of borings, the most fundamental of fundamentals. We're working on our technique. And so this is what's happened with our guitar playing. We thought we were getting good, and we were getting good. But then we became cognizant of this thing that's called technique. And then we noticed all of a sudden that we're fucking awful. And so now we gotta focus on the most fundamental of fundamentals, right? And then all of a sudden, once you get that up going again, and then you circle back around to doing all the cool shit, you're going to be playing all the cool shit with good fundamentals. And then you're going to be an unbelievable guitar player. That's the math. That's how the math is shaping out right now. Because now we're at the area where it barely shows that we're improving or not. But I can feel it. Our picking technique's getting a little bit better, and our fingering technique is getting a little bit better. But it's like it's not as cool as like, oh, I figured out this new arpeggio. So the question I'm most seriously interested in, where is the optimal place to hold the pick? You know what I mean? Because I used to do it when I first started playing guitar. I used to do it like this. You see what I'm saying? You see how awful this is? And apparently, the dude from Metallica, James Hetfield, he holds his pick like this. But this is a big no-no to hold your pick like this. Like, it feels so awkward doing that right now. Then what I started doing was doing this. And that's a little bit better, but I'm using my forearm for all of that. And then that's when I realized the whole thing where it's like you lay your finger out and then you clamp your thumb on top like this. And it's like over the knuckle, right? It's just like this protruding little thing. And then you kind of... Alright. So I'm going to try to shut up and just focus on the picking technique. I got some tools that's going to help us with our practice. But we're going to say that for tomorrow. So let's try these triplets. That's what we figured out yesterday. We could do the weird, it's not quite polyrhythms, but it's a sort of similar sort of concept. We're playing triplets over 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're literally working on potentially the most boring skill. The most boring skill literally conceivable in all of music. But it needs to be done. So we have pretty terrible, like almost abysmal technique. Listen really carefully. Listen to how many notes that aren't the note we're hitting ring out in the background. You hear that? How many years? How many years have I been playing guitar? A lot of years, let's just say. At no point have I ever really considered trying to uningrain all these little mistakes and shit. The assumption was, well, when I get better, that'll just stop happening. It doesn't stop happening. You have to go back to the basics. Here, I'm gonna try to do this sort of weird chromatic, just play any notes in no order, and try to not have other notes ring out. Failed. How does it happen every time? Just like listen as carefully as I possibly can, just so I can notice when it happens. You hear it? It happens like every time. Is that too slight for me to be caring about? Or am I on to some seriously important shit? Here, I'm going to turn up a little bit of distortion. Because we're playing on clean. There, you see that? In the background. Alright. I think I had seen a Bernth about this exact problem. Alright, could be this one. But let's look. I think it might be another video. This exercise solved all of my technique problems in just 6 months. Alright, I'm going to click that one. I'm going to open that in a new tab. The exercise solved my biggest technique frustration. Let's just pull up a ton of technique videos and just work our way through them. Because, listen, I think I could waste, or it's not necessarily a waste, I could spend a ton of time trying to do these complicated picking styles like sweep picking, legato, economy picking. I could spend a ton of time learning arpeggios, like more complicated arpeggios, whatever, or like doing complicated rhythmic shit. I think the most important thing for me to focus on is increasing my technical proficiency so I can better capitalize on the stuff that I already know. Alright.
Welcome.
Let's do this.
Shredding.
This is why you can't play fast, or do I want to do this exercise solved all of my technique problems? Alright, we'll do this one.
For the ultimate guitar technique exercise, you came to the right place. Today I'd like to show you the workout that finally made it possible for me to shred like that. I've been working on this exercise for around 6 months now and made quite a lot of progress with both hands, including 3 very important technique revelations that I want to share with you today. The 3 important technique takeaways from this video will hopefully save you a lot of practice time so that you get even faster results than me. So let's not waste any more time and start shredding right away. So after working on this exercise for a couple of weeks earlier this year, I made a video about it this summer. And here's where it gets really interesting. I also recorded a couple of very fast takes after today's morning practice routine. So this footage serves as a perfect technique comparison. You're here to see results and the change is surprisingly big.
So this is what I wonder sometimes. So Bernth, he does these 4 a.m. like hour-long like whatever practices, right? I think, man, I would like to get up that early, 4 a.m. and do it. I don't know if it makes sense though. And then the other thing, 'Cause I don't think Bernth records himself like talking about it. That's something I'm doing so I can figure it out. But I also think potentially that could also be a distraction, me talking to myself
after just
constantly.
a couple of months of working on this exercise, especially with the really fast take that I will show you later in this video. So to start, let's check out a full take of the workout performed at 120 beats per minute from earlier this year. In case you actually missed this very important video, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. That way you stay updated for more very helpful exercises like that one.
Yeah, this one. I remember this one. I hated this one.
More very helpful exercises like that one.
So. See that one, now when I'm looking at it, that one doesn't seem as hard as it seemed. Cause I know, whatever. Let's just try, let's do it, explain it, and we'll give it a go. And so the main thing that I've noticed about it isn't scalar. What it is it's chromatic within the scales, right? So this is C major, I guess, right? And then this is B major, and then this is B flat major, and then this is A major, right? You see what I'm saying? And so it isn't descending the scale, it's taking the entire scale and moving it down a half step.
So far so good. Now let's check out the 3 key factors why this exercise is so incredibly effective before we move to the progress. So first of all, this is a perfect hand synchronization exercise since you're using a different finger for every single picking stroke. You're playing 16th notes here, and all those down and up strokes need to be aligned with the correct finger.
Alright, so we got hand synchronization, because each note is being played by a different left hand finger, right? And then it's hand synchronization as well as alternate picking. You see what I'm saying? Pinky, ring finger, first finger. So it's a hand synchronization as well as alternate picking exercise.
Working with all of your fingers of your left hand for this exercise. You have to work on your string transitioning skills.
And it also makes us work on the string transitions, right? Because we're descending the entire scale in a fluid nature, right? We're not trying to get all staccato with it.
So moving from one string. So you are playing 7 notes.
And it's, okay, and then this is the other level, is that it's an odd note grouping. That is to say, there are 7 notes within a 4/4 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's another layer of difficulty.
On each string before you move to the next one. That means that the down and upstroke pattern is constantly turning around.
Alright, yeah, and then the other thing is, and since it's an odd note grouping, the order of upstrokes and downstrokes switches, right? So this is down, up, 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 down, up. You see what I'm saying? It switch, the downs and the ups switch on each string.
amount between all the different strings, from earlier today to the ones from 4 months ago. We will start with...
Okay, so now he's going to show the comparison from like him 6 months ago.
16th notes performed at 170 beats per minute. Stay tuned for the 200 BPM takes. This is where it gets really interesting.
This is the old one. He was already pretty good. But clearly he's improved a lot. Alright, this is what I've noticed. Look at his picking hand. So on the old video, he has this big hole in his picking hand, like he's doing the OK sign. Whereas in the new one, he doesn't have that OK hole. It's all more of like, it's not quite a fist, but it's closer to a fist. And there's way less movement. It's way smaller movement.
So first of all, I went with a much clearer, brighter and less muddy sounds today so that you can hear the details and the picking strokes better. But before we talk about the very important technique changes with the picking motion, let's check out the left hand in detail in this comparison shot. So as you can see at this tempo, there's not an extremely big difference, but you can definitely spot the progress when you look at my pinky finger.
Yeah, look at that pinky. Correct. So look at this. So as you guys are seeing this, right? Look at this shit. Look at his pinky.
You can see at this tempo there's not an extremely...
This is the old video and the new video holding the pinky thing right next to each other.
Big difference.
Massive
but you can definitely spot the progress when you look at my pinky finger in the old video compared to the new video. As you can see, I have much more control of my finger right now, and it looks like all my fingers work independently, while in the old footage it kind of looks like my pinky finger is really struggling with control, and it's also hitting the strings at a very flat angle, which is something we don't really want. So when I stop the video right here, you can clearly see the difference with all of my fingers. First of all, the pinky finger is bending away, as we discussed. Seemingly small detail makes a huge difference with your guitar technique, especially if you're pushing for speed and a clean technique, because it's much easier to speed up controlled and small motion. It's really hard to get good results if your pinky finger is always bending away like that and you feel like you're fighting your fingers at higher tempos. And when your fingers hit the fretboard at a very flat angle, like that for example, you tend to block the string above the one that you're playing on, which really messes with your string transitions. Let's check out the picking technique now in another comparison video.
Let's see the picking.
So as you can see, the change right here is much bigger than with my left hand. It pretty much looks completely different. In the old take, you can see my fingers kind of forming a hole like that, and that never looked quite right to me when I was analyzing my recorded footage. And one of the other very important details is that I was using a fret wrap for the old take, for the old performance. So just a string dampener that you can attach to your guitar like that. So that's great for recording, of course, because you can't really hear that unwanted noise coming from the string transitions with a dampener like that. But I always felt like I had to work more on my left hand technique to get cleaner results. But what I didn't realize is that my right hand was causing all of these problems. So here's what happened with the older technique. I was essentially holding my pick like that, not really thinking about it that much. And that way my right hand fingers, my other fingers, were scraping against the strings. In fact, I have a bit of scar tissue right here. It kind of feels similar to my left hand fingers. So what happened with this kind of technique when I was holding the pick like that is that my other right hand fingers were scraping against the higher strings, and that caused a lot of unwanted noise, especially with fast playing. And I didn't really realize that, and that's the reason why I was always working with a string dampener. I always thought it's because of my left hand. So at one point I started to experiment with the way that I'm holding my pick, because it didn't kind of feel that natural and I didn't give it too much thought. I was just playing and practicing. So I changed it to this kind of grip. And once again, the change looks very minimal, but when you hold the pick like that, I think you will immediately realize that it feels much more natural. And one of the main benefits that I have from this kind of picking technique is that I can spread my other right hand fingers out just a little bit to avoid touching the other strings, and that massively cleaned up my picking technique and my picking motion in general. So that's precisely what you can see in this video. Let me freeze the frame real quick. Difficult to transition between the strings without generating a lot of noise or without getting stuck. All right, now let's take it to the extreme and check out a comparison of the 200 BPM
6
takes.
months and today. Yeah, this looks way better, way smoother, way cleaner.
So this is the absolute biggest difference with both my left hand and my right hand technique so far. Let's check out some detail shots once again. So now you can see a much bigger difference with my left hand. You can see different strings.
Alright, so let's just try doing the exercise ourselves. So I'm going to put it in 4/8, or I mean 8/4, 8/4, or is it 8/8? Is that what we want? 8/8. 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, what is the time signature we want? Let's put it at 70 for now. Or let's put it at 80. We'll start really slow. Alright. So this is all technique focused. You feel that? Can you feel me, Mr. Krabs? Okay, let's go back to this video. Let's kind of see what the time signature is like.
That way you stay updated for more very helpful exercises like that one.
We're going to speed it up. I'm going to put it up to 90. Put it up to 100. I'll raise the BPM real quick. Or I'm going to raise the volume, not specifically the BPM. And I specifically want to raise the volume on the secondary beat, so I can hear whenever I need to put that as the one. You are the one, Neo. That is a good technique exercise. That is a really good one. We're going to do 120. This is hard to get the timing right because you're trying to play 7 notes over a 4/4 beat, essentially. Here's the question. Do I want to be sitting up very straight and have really good posture when I'm practicing? Is that going to make a big difference? I feel like it does. I feel like this is the telltale sign it's a good exercise. It's like insanely frustrating, even though it should be pretty simple. Like I could definitely play that, but I know it's not right. Like there's something I'm doing wrong about it. So whatever it is that my brain is trying to adjust to, that is going to culminate into better technique. Like I can obviously play it. But there's something not right about that. And so I'm trying to figure out the technique behind it, which is all about just, in simple terms, we're going to make it smooth. The timing of this is retarded too with the 7 BPM thing. 7 notes per string. It's not 7 BPM. The 7 notes per 7 whatever the fuck. It's 7. It's odd. Something odd over an even. It's obnoxious. So Bert did this for like 7 months, and he said that's what really fixed my technique. Like, I'm gonna do this every fucking day for months, and then we're gonna have flawless technique, and then no one can fuck with me. So maintaining the ups and downstrokes is really difficult on this one for me. This is fucking really pissing me off. Real bad. The timing is really difficult. And so this is going to be something I'm going to do every single day for months and months and months and months until I have good technique. Just listen to him do it.
Exercises like that one. For the channel.
Or put it on super slow-mo. We're going to try playing along with him.
Right now that we stay updated for more very helpful exercises like that one.
We'll move on. This is why you can't play fast. 2 exercises to fix it.
What's the big secret? The shortcut, the life hack, the miracle exercise that will increase your guitar speed, control and precision in a matter of seconds. Short answer, I don't think that there is such a thing. But there is one incredibly important technique aspect that will get you there much faster if you start implementing it today. I wish I knew this when I started out working on my shredding skills back in the day, but I'm very happy and excited that I can finally share this with you today. Today's incredibly important topic is called economy of motion.
Economy of motion.
I was honestly really bad at learning about physics when I went to school, but this is something that even makes sense to me. It's extremely hard to speed up a big, uncontrolled, cramped up, full arm motion when it comes to picking technique. Believe me, I tried to do this in the past and I thought I just need to push even harder to get to those super fast tempos. But to make a very long story short, that got me absolutely nowhere. The same goes for your fretting hand. If your fingers are flying across the neck like that and you constantly have to move them back and forth in extreme angles like this in order to reach the next note that you're playing, it will also really stand in the way of playing very fast, controlled and precise. That's a short summary of what economy of motion is all about, reducing the size of your motions and making them more precise, effective and controlled. But how do you effectively work on this in your daily practice routine, aside from just paying close attention to your fretting hand and your picking hand? I have 2 extremely powerful exercises for you today that will improve both your fretting hand technique and your picking hand technique simultaneously. This will instantly help you out with developing a relaxed wrist motion with your picking hand, and your economy of motion with your fretting hand will also greatly improve after just a couple of practice sessions. So this will help you with getting rid of that full arm motion, and it will also really help out with your fretting hand technique in case you're struggling with rising fingers like that or with the flying pinky finger.
Aha. There was tried at 60.
Help out with your fretting hand technique in case you're struggling with rising fingers like that or with the flying pinky finger. I'm gonna have to do it even slower than that. So we have to maintain up strokes and down strokes
while also not like having our fingers fly all around, while also getting all the notes to ring out cleanly. This is really difficult. So you want to stop doing the ups and down strokes.
Finger.
So look how slight and tiny he's managed to make his movements. There's another daily one.
As always, I made some really awesome practice backing tracks, guitar profiles and PDF tabs, especially for you on patreon.com/Bernd. So make sure to download all of these files after watching the following really important instructions. Before you go and practice this, we have some really important details to discuss, and the workout won't help you if you skip this. I will make it short and effective. First of all, this is a really cool practical minor arpeggio featuring the ninth, basically a chord tension. Make sure to try out this arpeggio shape next time you play over a minor chord when you're improvising or when you're working on a guitar solo. It sounds extremely awesome. Secondly, I'm working with alternate picking here, so a strict and constant pattern of downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, and so on. Yes, this might be easier for you with sweep picking or with economy picking, but that's not the point of this exercise. The really difficult string transitions right here will shape your alternate picking motion, and in my personal experience it's only possible to play this with a wrist motion. A stiff arm motion like that will get your pick stuck between the strings and you won't really be able to escape that dead zone between the strings. So this is a great factor to double check and to make sure that you're working with a wrist motion when you're practicing this exercise. So while we're at it, let's discuss the picking hand in detail first. As you can see, I'm placing my palm on the bridge. I don't like to work with the so-called floating hand approach, where your picking hand doesn't come into contact with the guitar at all. I personally always need that kind of connection to the instrument when I'm working on alternate picking, sweep picking, or any kind of challenging material. I didn't get any good and reliable results so far when my wrist isn't touching the guitar at all, and it's also much easier for me to switch between open and palm muted notes when I just have to move my hand back and forth like this. So my picking hand is very relaxed, but I do feel some muscles working right here or even right here when things get very relaxed, but I do feel some muscles working right here or even right here when things get really fast. As you can see in this footage, I also tend to use my arm just a little bit in order to push for those really extreme alternate picking tempos. But once again, the motion is never just coming from my elbow like that, and I'm never locking up my wrist completely. So at mid tempos like this, I could go for a very long time and focus on keeping the motion small and effective. One last detail, make sure to angle your pick a little bit. It's much harder to play this with the string transitions when you're working with a flat angle or parallel angle like that. Also, those string transitions are really hard when you're using a big surface of your pick to play instead of just working with the tip. So I make sure to angle my pick when I'm playing, and I'm also only working with the tip of my pick. Now let's quickly summarize the fretting hand. As you can hear, I don't want the notes to overlap right here, like when I would play a chord, for example. I want to separate each note effectively, so once again, I don't want these notes to overlap. This obviously means that I have to lift my fingers just a little bit, and this is the most challenging aspect of this workout. I'm currently working on my middle finger because it's sometimes rising when I play certain arpeggio shapes or certain scale patterns like the extended pentatonic licks that I often like to play. So my personal practice goal with this exercise is getting my middle finger closer with extended shapes like that, for example, when I'm not using my middle finger. So when you play this exercise for the first time, all your fingers might actually rise, and it will be very hard to control them at first. But it's no problem at all, this all comes with time, so don't be frustrated when you start out with this. Just play it really slowly with the backing tracks that I uploaded for you on Patreon, and focus on keeping the distance between your fingertips and the guitar neck as small as possible. This will help you out much more than playing it as fast as possible and sloppy when you're starting out. Please also remember that this is not primarily a speed exercise. This gets both your hands fit in order to perform fast and controlled alternate picking licks later on.
Not a speed exercise. It is all about having controlled alternate picking. I'm gonna get some shit. Epic rap battles of history. Darth Vader versus Adolf Hitler. Begin. I am Adolf Hitler, commander of the Third Reich. Little known fact, also dope on the mic. So, this is what I'm noticing. Just look at this. Look at this. You see how my fingers are like flying around? That's not good. And so essentially we're gonna have to dial that in over time. As our helpful guitar teacher, he says, do not be frustrated if your fingers are flying around. This does not happen overnight. It takes time. Whatever. I added this one. So he goes like this. I go like this. Alright, let's see what the second exercise is.
So let's say you worked on this for a couple of days already and you want to make it a bit more challenging. This could be level 2 of this exercise.
Alright, this is level 2, essentially. You got this? I feel like this one's easier. But the hard part is the transition. So this is like an this is minor, F minor add 9. Right? That's a really good chord shape to practice this. because it's a big stretch. I don't know if it's a big stretch. It's a stretch, nonetheless. And that forces you to try to bring your fingers under control and not like have them fly around when you're trying to lift your fingers between each note. So let's try playing that 10 times without making a mistake. Let me get a beat going. Man, that is frustrating. Because you just want to go, like, just stay, just don't, what's wrong with you, fingers? Like, you want to get angry at your own fingers. You like, that's how crazy you have to be a guitar player. Like, you're getting angry at your own fingers. Just, like, don't move like that, like. Frustrating one, because it's the most frustrating ones are ones that you can play, but it doesn't matter if you can play them because that's not what you're practicing. You're focusing on the technique.
What's up, YouTube community?
This exercise solved my biggest technique frustration.
Bernd here, welcome back to another video lesson. In this one I want to show you an amazing and really powerful workout for your left hand that has the potential to drastically improve your technique over the next couple of weeks. This is one of the most popular topics on the lesson wish list on Patreon for this month. My patrons get to vote and to actively decide on the lesson topics we discuss on here on this channel. So if you would also like to be a more active part of this community, make sure to check that out on patreon.com/Bernd. So let's get started with the shredding right away. So when we talk or think about fast alternate picking licks, sweep picking or anything else concerning the shred guitar playing style, we're almost always focused on the right hand and the picking technique. So we often forget that a proper left hand technique is actually incredibly important in mastering this playing style. Some of my students have developed a technique like that, where they're using a pretty extreme angle with the left hand.
Yes.
And that is
already
pretty
he's talking
hard for me
exactly
to
what
do,
we're talking
actually.
about this morning.
Right here, I couldn't.
A lot of people, they play with like this like diagonal shape, and so you have to like reach over like ridiculously far, where you have to keep your hand like perpendicular to the guitar.
Really reach the 8th fret with my pinky finger. I couldn't make that stretch. So whenever you encounter a problem like that, for example wrist pain or fatigue or some kind of burning sensation, there's usually something wrong with your technique. Another very important aspect I want you to pay attention to is the angle of the fingers hitting the fretboard. You really want to make sure to go for an angle like that. As you can see, I'm using an angle like that, and you want to avoid flat fingers like that. That's a pretty extreme example, but if you would play like that, you're blocking the next string. But when you work with this kind of angle instead, the notes on the next string can actually ring through. So this is something we looked at with the so-called spider exercise. If I would work with an angle like that, it would be impossible to play this exercise. The string is blocked, and that will really hurt your sound and progress on the instrument. So when you want to play fast shred guitar sections like that, you also need to work on an efficient left-hand technique and can't just focus on the picking aspect. Because one of the key ingredients of a super fast and fluid technique is of course minimizing the movement of the hands and fingers. It's much harder for me to play fast like that, for example, and it will sound pretty terrible. That was a bit over-exaggerated, but I think you get the point. So here's the really powerful left-hand technique exercise that I want you to include in your daily practice routine from now on.
Oh, look at this shit, man. Oh my gosh. Just quick side tangent. Isn't this fucking guitar he has so fucking cool? This H.R. Geiger, like, metallic guitar. That is like one of the coolest guitars I've ever seen in the entire world. How does this shit go?
The left-hand technique exercise that I want you to include in your daily practice routine from now on.
That's a good one. We could throw that in during the spider walk, essentially. Yep. It's these tiny, tiny, tiny little movements that make all the difference.
And technique exercise that I want you to include in
your I can feel it. I could like literally feel it. Like my fingers are just a little bit off, and so that permeates into every little thing I do.
Daily practice routine from now on. From now on. To include in your daily practice routine from now on.
So it's fuck. So it goes up to the 5, then we switch to the 8 on the descent. Okay, let's just do that for a little bit. Fuck it. It seems like a goofball exercise, but it's like I can feel it. It's right. It's what I need to work on. See, I've totally shredded these picks. You see this? Look at this. So I get all this extra noise. Can't go that fast. It's too fast for me. Too fast. Too furious. Damn. Technique sucks. It sucks. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. How much suck can a technique suck if a technique sucks? These are good questions. This is why you can't play fast. So, quick side tangent. I've noticed that we've developed all these weird muscles in our hands since we've been practicing way more carefully. Like with the pinky area. Like, you see what I can do with my pinky? So weird. And look at this. Sometimes I think, you know, they have like the devil horns thing? Where like you do this, like, yeah, hail Satan or whatever. That's like associated with rock and roll. I feel like that's probably because it's like you do all this weird shit with like your fingers, and then people who play guitar, they just get used to doing this thing here. Like, yeah, hail Satan or whatever, right? Rock and roll. but most of all, we're at war with ourselves. Jesus walks. Yeah, I probably shouldn't be checking my phone. I was just saying earlier how that fucks up your progress. Well, what are you gonna do? Oh, fuck. I guess I'm just gonna throw my phone. Here, I gotta lean over like this. Nope, that's not it.
Today I have something really special. As always, you can download the tabs, guitar profiles and really helpful practice backing tracks for this exercise on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Bernd. These backing tracks are recorded for you in different tempos, will make it a bit easier to structure your practice plan accordingly, and I also give personal and constructive feedback to student videos over there. So the most important factor about this exercise, aside from playing in time and synchronizing the hands correctly, is sticking as close to the fretboard with your left hand as possible. You can just stick to one position before you start moving it around. So just in one position on the neck, and as you can see, my fingers are not moving away from the fretboard after I'm moving back to the index finger. They remain very close. So make sure to make this the main focus of the exercise, and you can also apply the practice trick I showed you yesterday, where you look at your technique from a different angle. It will be much easier to control and to review if you're doing the exercise correctly when you analyze the footage after the practice routine. So always make sure to record yourself when you're working on technique exercises like that. And when we turn the pattern around, it gets even more challenging in my opinion.
Six bad habits that kill your guitar practice. You won't believe number 4.
Attention, this is not a drill. The system has discovered 6 critical flaws that will prevent further guitar progress. Stop playing immediately and wait for further instructions.
I bet you know the feeling of being completely stuck on your guitar journey, especially if you're learning and practicing completely by yourself. It took me many years to figure out and to correct my personal technique mistakes and to fill the gaps in my music theory knowledge. Through hundreds of weekly messages from our student community of over 3,000 players on Patreon, I finally figured out some of the main guitar progress killers that concern us all. If you don't correct these mistakes and bad habits, it will be very hard to achieve your goals with the instrument. So let's not waste any more time and work on each one right away and see how they all connect with today's final and most important topic. So right away, this is one of the frustrations I keep hearing about the most. I get tons of string noise when I'm playing with distortion. The open strings are always ringing through. I need a fret rep whenever I'm playing solos, and so on. That sounds familiar, right? So let's talk about it. One of the biggest problems is the accidental pull-off motion whenever you lift your fingers from the fretboard. So that means if you're not playing for that long, or maybe if you never paid attention to it, your fretting hand fingers sometimes generate that kind of unwanted noise when you lift them from the strings, either causing a small unwanted pull-off motion like that, or sometimes you're simply touching the other strings while you're playing with your fingers. This is a big problem that will prevent your progress sound and also technique-wise, but it's easy to fix. First of all, make sure to place your fingers on the fretboard like that for maximum control and efficiency. If they are not curled like this, you will probably keep touching the other strings. That doesn't sound too good. And it will also be hard or even impossible to develop that kind of fluid and effortless sounding legato technique. That won't really be possible when you're playing like that. At least I can't do it. Second tip. A lot of rock and metal guitar players use way too much force with their fretting hand, and we tend to cramp up easily as soon as things get really fast and complex. This was quite a big issue for me as well, especially when I was playing live. As soon as I started reducing pressure with focus on staying more relaxed, I sounded much better and got much less string noise. I promise you will be really surprised by how effortless and fluid you're sounding as soon as you remind yourself not to squeeze the neck like that all the time when you're playing, and as soon as you're avoiding unnecessary finger and also wrist movement like that. And one last tip, don't always just mute with your palm to reduce string noise. Of course, I do love the sound of those muted notes, but you don't want to completely depend on palm muting when it comes to your playing. Obviously, palm muting is not the perfect choice for every single song, riff or lick that you want to play. Instead, I can really recommend adding some hammer-on and pull-off workouts to your practice routine. Aside from the obvious technique benefits, you will also greatly improve your fretting hand technique in terms of string noise. Here's a great daily workout and exercise for your fingers to reduce your string noise and to work on your muting with your fretting hand. As always, you should download the video player alongs, guitar profiles and tabs I made especially for you on patreon.com/Bernd to practice with them.
Alright.
Okay, I hope you're ready for this. This is one of the most important topics ever. It doesn't matter if you see yourself as a rhythm guitar player, or as a lead guitar player, or if you play jazz, or metal. If you don't learn to confidently play in time, you won't make any real progress on your guitar journey. And the solution is not just practice with a metronome, but it's the first step into the right direction. You might not like this sound at first, but it's immensely important to have this timing reference in your practice routine. If you just play exercises randomly and can't check if you're dragging or rushing, you miss out on one of the most important aspects of your daily practice routine. One tip or daily habit that has helped me out a lot with this is constantly recording to a click at home. I record new music for myself or for session jobs pretty much every day, and I'm making these YouTube videos obviously, and that essentially means I have to record to a click every single day. So if you want to avoid an extremely embarrassing first day in the studio, Please make sure to record yourself playing or practicing to a click and really analyze your takes and playing. Are you always rushing with certain phrases? Or are your quarter note triplets really in time? Or are you dragging with faster material? Once you get to know your personal shortcomings, it will be much easier to improve on them. So in case you want to work on that from now on, which we all should do more, I have another really cool timing workout for your practice routine. You probably missed this really cool workout. It didn't get a lot of views when I posted it originally. Because, say it with me, still around 70% of you guys and girls are not subscribed to this channel. Yes, I swear I'm not making this number up, and you keep missing tons of really helpful exercises like that. So make sure to join us today to become a real part of our YouTube Shred community.
Alright, these are triplets in groups of 4. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Still doing this fucking shit. If I'm not focusing on it, I'll start fucking up my picking.
I know, you're probably a bit scared of music theory. A lot of players even get defensive about it, claiming that theory hurts your natural sound and creativity. In my personal experience over the last 15 years of playing, this could not be farther from the truth. You need at least a basic understanding of theory to know which scales to use for your guitar solos, to know which chords are in a key for your songwriting. It's so frustrating to constantly feel stuck in the same boring old scale shapes, and it will kill your progress at one point if you don't develop some fundamental music theory skills. Please trust me on this, it's not that bad. Here's a suggested, easy, quickly summarized roadmap for you. If I could start again with all this, I would start with learning the notes on my fretboard. I recently even posted a whole course on fretboard visualization and memorization for all students on Patreon. Next, you can study the intervals, their names and sound, so you won't be confused anymore when somebody says scary words like minor third or major seventh. Once again, all of this really isn't as bad as it sounds at the beginning. Next, you can learn about chord and scale theory. In this step, you will learn how scales are built and how they are all connected, how chords are constructed and which chords are in a key. With this basic foundation, you can tackle pretty much any advanced music theory topic in the future. Of course, you don't have to become a full-on jazz music theory super nerd. But I can guarantee you, without these fundamentals, you will be stuck at some point, and this absolutely kills your progress both as a guitar player and as a musician in general. Alright, as you can probably tell by now, this is one of my absolute favorite topics. And that's for a reason. I was at a point a couple of years ago where I felt completely stuck with my own technique. I could play some really cool stuff and I was working professionally on big tours and album productions already, but I felt like I was limited and held back by my technique. Up to that point I actually thought I was working on technique quite a lot, since I was constantly practicing alternate picking, sweep picking, tapping and all of that crazy stuff. But I wasn't working and improving on much more important topics like how I'm holding my pick, how my fretting hand fingers are touching the strings while I'm playing, how my fretting hand wrist is moving or not moving when I'm playing, of course how my pinky finger is bending away from the fretboard uncontrolled like that constantly, how my picking angle needs to change for certain string transitions and if I'm working with my wrist or with my full arm. And those are of course just some really quick and basic topics. So once I was questioning all of this and I started experimenting with different approaches, I was totally hooked. First I got my pinky finger under control with exercises like that. Up next I was working on my picking technique, closing my hand and working with my wrist instead of my full arm. That's exactly what we discussed in last week's video, and exercises like that one really helped me with that. So working and practicing like this really unlocked my wrist, and that improved my sound so much. And then I worked on my fretting hand technique, my fingers and my wrist angle some more with legato exercises. This of course corrected my finger positioning. It also reduced the string noise, like we discussed in the first chapter of today's video. And I also stopped moving my wrist excessively like that, which was also quite a problem. To make a long story short, I stopped seeing technique as many small topics like alternate picking or sweep picking, and started to see the bigger picture. How am I actually holding the guitar? How are my fretting hand fingers working? Where are the weaknesses with my picking technique? And so on. So if you feel right now that your technique is holding you back, just make a list of all the aspects you want to improve and actively work on this in your practice routine. Yes, you might be surprised, sound is extremely important for your guitar progress as well. Great tone is up to debate, of course, and we all prefer different amps, cabs or effect combinations. But what is not up for discussion is that too much gain will make it hard for you to identify your shortcomings. This is a bad habit I see with a lot of students. If you practice or record with gain set to 11 at all times, you will have a really bad day as soon as your producer or sound engineer tells you to dial it back. Of course, I experienced this myself and it really hurt, but we have to admit it, hiding behind massive amounts of gain and distortion is one of the big guitar progress killers as well. Here's how I used to practice all the time. That's a cool kind of sound, but when I'm practicing, this is how it sounds like right now. I really want to be able to hear all of these inconsistencies with my playing. This really gets me prepared for studio jobs or for live performances, so that there are hopefully no bad surprises. So I can really recommend trying out a clean sound or just less effects in your next practice routine. It might hurt a bit in the beginning since you thought you sound better and more accomplished already. At least that's how I felt like when I turned down the gain for the very first time. But in the long run, this will really help with cleaning up your playing and technique, and you will make much faster and better progress this way. So how do all previously discussed bad habits connect and potentially kill your guitar progress? In your daily practice routine, of course. We talked about routines a lot on this channel, and if you're subscribed and part of our awesome community here, you know that I love to work with practice plans, and I also love recommending this system. But one bad habit or topic I didn't mention yet is challenging yourself accordingly with this. We all hate to sound bad, and it's not a good feeling to fail, especially with something you're so passionate about. But this is absolutely necessary to get better. Simply put, if you sound absolutely amazing when you're practicing every day, you're doing something wrong. If you sound perfect practicing your live set, preparing for a gig, that's a great thing. You will have an awesome show. Great job. But if you sound great and absolutely flawless with your guitar technique and theory workouts every single day, chances are you're not really challenging yourself enough. You absolutely want to struggle and fail every single day. This is exactly what will make you better. So in case you need help with setting up your personal perfect practice routine, you can always hit me up on Patreon. Alright, thanks so much for watching today's episode all the way until the end.
Alright, now we're gonna jam, and then we're gonna end this. We're gonna end it all. End this hellish facade. Yeah, I'm gonna make a loop. Alright, then I'm gonna turn the tone knob up. I'm gonna switch to my neck pickup. what the hell am I playing? Now I've properly confused myself. Now here's the thing. I'm gonna first make a new loop because that wasn't a good loop. I'm gonna switch up our amp sound. let's make a new loop. Okay, all in all, things are going poorly, which is a good thing. So then